Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a big Monday. A happy to be home Monday from Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, where we just saw so much take place. We'll get to some of that sort of recap here shortly. Also, some recruiting news, some news around the water cooler on the Orange Bloods chat channel that I don't even understand, having to do with Cam Newton and some comments that he made. Cody, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. We're back home. No more Indianapolis. It's always a fun week. It's always a good week to hang out. But by the time that thing comes to the end, you're ready to get back home to your own bed. And we're back here in our own friendly confines. Football with friends. No better place to be on a Monday night.
Yeah, man. That first workout back home after 6 days of being a real slug, it just hits different, doesn't it? It's just
Dog, I laid on my back this morning in the sauna. I just laid down there for about 35 minutes. And just honestly, I was like this close to falling asleep. I was a little scared.
you can't fall asleep. You can't fall asleep in that clear light sauna when it's jacked up to 160, man. I don't know how you could possibly fall asleep, man. It's like after 25 minutes, I'm screaming to get out of there. All right, so the first thing we need to get to today is the Texas trying to steal the Aggies cornbread. Once again, we have an update on their top commitment, or a guy that's considered right at the top as far as their commitments. Texas A&M has two commitments from players from Douglas County High School in Douglasville, Georgia. They have Jordan Carter, the edge rusher, and they have Aaron Gregory, the wide receiver. Both of them committed back in October to Texas A&M. And there's been some kind of some scuttlebutt that Texas had stayed after Aaron Gregory. And now we have Jason with a report on Orange Bloods today saying that Texas is trying to steal away Aaron Gregory, and that and catching up with him today that he has his A&M visit set for June 5th. He's hoping to get to Texas for June 13th on an official visit. So he's been in talks with getting that official visit set up. He's trying to work something around his 7-on-7 schedule, but he is expected to visit Texas at some point in June. The follow-up to that was it's looking like, dependent on the 7-on-7 schedule, that it's looking like it's going to be June 5th for A&M and then June 13th for Texas. Don't know if that's is that a trip where you just kind of come into Texas from Georgia and just sort of stay? Or do you go back home and fly back into Texas again?
I would say you probably go back home and come back.
Yeah. It'd be nice if he came to Austin for the week leading up to it.
I think in an ideal world, if you were him, you would take the Aggie visit and then take the trip over to Austin and just do the visit the next day. But I think for Texas Longhorns perspective, they probably want him to be there when everybody else is there for the visit as well.
So did you watch Aaron Gregory today? I admittedly had not watched him yet until today when this report came across, and now it looks like he's going to be somebody we're going to need to keep an eye on here. Yeah. So
I did not have him on my radar until today. So yeah. I knew he's obviously offered, but obviously he's committed to A&M. I wasn't going to do my digging on him until there's a reason to, and now there is. I liked what I saw. I saw, and I was trying not to like. It's tough when you have a little bit of recency bias after coming off of, being at the combine, watching all these guys. And the one guy that was like in my mind, and it's terribly, I don't even like the comp. I don't really want to say it out loud, was like his lower body. I think Matthew Golden has some rather long, I guess you'd call it tib-fib ratio. Like his tibs are longer than his fibulas. So his ankles to knees are a little bit longer is what I would call it. And that's kind of what I saw out of this guy.
Well, that's the Devontae Smith too.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Bambi legs.
I'm getting the over the top of my camera, the femur, not fibula. So femur is the word I should have used there. So
okay.
Doctor in the house, sorry. But you get the point, right? The long lower legs really stuck out to me with Aaron Gregory. I think this kid's a nice athlete. You rep Devonta Smith. I thought of a little bit of that Matthew Golden mixed with a little bit of Khalil Lockett, two guys that are obviously in the Texas ecosystem. I like what this guy can make plays on the ball. He's got a good catch radius. I think he's explosive. And they got a lot of in-breaking routes, a lot of little bubble screens to him that I think he can make plays with after the catch at the level of play he's at. Obviously, it's it's tough to predict that to the next level. But getting him in space and getting him the ball in high school is obviously a feature.
Dude, it will, and we always like we're always wondering. Pretty soon we need to like figure out just figure out what the best Georgia high school teams are. There were some Georgia dudes that we were sitting by at this last thing. I should have been like, dude, we give me a rundown about how this works so we can sort of know, because
that's a good that you should have.
You know what I mean? Because we're always like, how's the level of competition? We're watching, Justice Terry, and we're watching all these other guys, and we're like, well, how does it exactly stack up, and what do these divisions mean? But I will say this: whenever you watch the Douglas County High School stuff and you watch his so as a freshman, he apparently played at a lower level, but his sophomore and junior seasons, from what I was reading, he moved up as far as level of competition. And it makes sense to me if you watch I can't believe his junior highlights only have like 250 something views. They must be really new. But
he posted them in December. So I mean,
I think he might be one of these guys that, after he committed, you get a big bump on the sophomore highlights, and then after that, they're like, the guy's already in the boat. Oh, we're on to 2026 and stuff. So I figure those junior highlights should have a lot more views because they're really, really good. And just one thing I'll say tangentially about Aaron Gregory, the wide receiver out of Douglas County, Douglasville, Georgia, is that at least the stadiums he plays in are like nice. They're good, big high school football stadiums. It doesn't look like rinky-dink stuff with, set of rafters and, 10 rows up and stuff like that. There's some of these that have like nice connecting, you can tell, like athletic facilities and stuff like that. So I think it's probably a relatively high level of high school football there in Georgia. We know that Texas has made Georgia a focus. I think it's interesting that, now you get the new director of scouting, Aaron Joe, in there from Georgia Tech that has such deep roots to Georgia. And now we're starting to see a little bit more of a full court press on this guy. Texas is pressing him on the official visit date, going harder after him. There had been buzz that Texas was continuing to be after him. And whenever I watched him, I said he looked like Devontae Smith. And you know how Coach Sark always talks about, his affinity for Devontae Smith, and it's obvious to know why. The monster season that he had coaching that guy, how he still talks about him to this day, is just the one who he had. There was just the one who just the football found him. He just says that's what you got to look for in your wide receivers, is a guy that the football can find you. And the half of the reason I thought he looked like him, for one, like you said, long through the. I didn't think this, but I was just thinking long, skinny legs. But you're right. It's like the high like knees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's very Devontae Smith-like. The way that they use him on bubble screens and stuff like that, very Devontae Smith-like. Versus what I think, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I think it's a pretty decent level of Georgia high school football. He can outrun everybody. He runs with those really long strides, but it's not just one of these guys where you say, oh, he has deceptive long speed because he's a long strider. It's not really like that. He looks like an explosive, dynamic guy with the football in his hands. I think up to his sophomore year and maybe in his junior year, it's not on the huddle highlights, but they say that he played DB too. So obviously a well-rounded, good athlete. I would certainly want this guy playing wide. There's no way you'd play him at DB. He's just such an epic talent at wide receiver. And I think the most impressive thing about him is just his no body catches for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even on the bubbles and stuff, where it's just so easy to catch it like this and get up. It's always like positioning the body with the what is it that is called, the scouts say, like putting yourself in position to win with the yards after catch. I forget what that term is for that body positioning. Whenever you put yourself in position to run through the football and start out with that head of steam, but he does it right. Contested catch stuff when they're down in the red area. But the fact of the matter is, it's like his quarterback there's not that much contested catch stuff on there. Whenever they're not in the red zone, whenever there's space on the football field, that guy will run fly routes and he'll just put the ball up and the guy will go get it. But I do agree with you on the in breaking routes. It's the same thing. It's that I wish I could remember the name of what this technique is called, but it's the Cooper Cup. Is always having the ball in front of you to where it's like you're taking your first step upfield. So you can see why they're so interested in him. I think that if A&M gets this guy, they're going to be getting quite a prospect. Is he a 5-star?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to bring up a second ago. Was we were talking about like what he potentially was before he commits. So a year ago, according to Rivals, they have a ranking history chart on their site, which is one of my favorite things they have. And you can see every time they've updated their rankings where he's gone. So he's 42nd in the nation right now. He's a 604 star. So he's just outside looking, and he's the number 6 overall wide receiver. He's the number 4 overall player in the state of Georgia, 42nd in the nation. He's dropped, Alex, every single update but one since March 7th of 2024. So March 7th of 2024, he was the 12th ranked player in the country. He dropped to 20th. He dropped to 21st, 29th, 28th, 30th, 32nd, 33rd, and now he's at 42nd. He's been dropping, actually. So you said he transferred going into last year to the new school. I thought that tape looked well, but obviously, or tape, I should say, highlight looked good, but I didn't look at the sophomore highlight, so I don't know. I can't imagine his junior tape's worse than his sophomore tape. But as far as the rankings go, he was once the 12th ranked player in the country.
Well, all right. So he was on track to, but was he 42nd now?
42nd. He's still up. I mean, he's still going to be in the conversation when the hay's in the barn.
I think once that junior tape kind of circulates a little bit more, people sort of see it. I don't understand how you don't consider that guy a 5-star. So if Texas A&M gets him, good for them. Texas, as far as looking at what Texas has right now, with everything that they have in the pipe, as far as wide receivers, immediately as far as 2025, I guess there's maybe a little bit of concern just with are these young guys going to be ready, and are they going to come along fine, and how is the depth, and what are you going to get out of guys like Parker Livingstone and Aaron Butler and things like that? By the time 2026 rolls around, you'll have some of those guys who are what do you think of this, dude? Like, by 2026, you're gonna have Dalen McCutcheon and Michael Terry and all these dudes coming into year 3. Jamie French, Khalil Lockett. You'll have Wingo, who will be basically on his way, probably on his way to the NFL for the 2027. So that's the 2027 class, right? I get this so confused with him.
More will be 2026 draft. Wingo will be 2027 draft. And then these other freshmen, Lockett, French, and McCutcheon, and Terry, will be the 28 draft.
And so if you just compare that, so I would just say this. With Texas, you have you look at like, Arch Manning, KJ Lacey, Diabell, all these guys, right? Whenever that's the case, and it's Steve Sarkisian, how much do you really weigh that versus the fact that the depth chart could probably be a little bit more clogged up at that point versus what they have at A&M and dealing with like Marcel Reed and whatever's in the pipe after that guy. The new NIL stuff that they're talking about there at A&M, I don't know if it's really that much different. It's just sort of branded in a way to make it sound like it's pretty good and pretty appealing. How do you think that'll, like, if you're Sark and you're Texas, how do you sell that, and how do you sell yourself versus A&M besides the obvious?
You sell yourself by two things. You say, Quinn is Quinn. You say Arch Manning is going to be here for the next 2. He's going to be here in 25, and he's going to be here for your freshman season. So you're going to get to learn from him, whilst you'll get to learn from a Wingo, a French, a Lockett, these guys that are going to be in the well-oiled machine that is continued success at the NFL draft level at the wide receiver room. Elite output. Elite output looks like this. It looks like Adonai Mitchell and Worthy. It looks like Bond and Golden. 2025, it looks like DeAndre Moore. 2026, it looks like it's a continued cycle of what we can project as year after year after year, top 50 draft picks at the wide receiver position. You sell that. You sell Chris Jackson. You sell the quarterback. And yes, Arch. Well, I'm only going to play with Arch my freshman year, and I'm probably, will I see the field? Yeah, I'm gonna see the field because I'm me. But then Bell, who is going to be in my recruiting class, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and I can come in and visit with him. I think Bell said he would come in whatever weekend that the coaching staff wants him to come in. I would imagine if they're making a real push at this Gregory guy, Aaron Gregory, that he's not a guy. Aaron Gregory, that they will bring Bell in that weekend to try to see if this relationship can exist or create, whatever it may be. And I think that's what you sell him. You sell him the draft, you sell him Chris Jackson, you sell him the pipeline, and you sell him the quarterback play. And that's all things that, quite frankly, A&M doesn't have right now outside of the wide receiver coach. They do have a wide receiver coach that's highly respected.
So, do we know when Bell
he does not have his official okay. Well, I guess he just announced it then.
I think that it's I think he's in on the 20th.
Okay, well that's okay. So last week, again, I've been half out of the recruiting circle the last couple of days.
Right. Yeah. So I think his might be on the 20th, but I'm not sure. Oh, we have Money B in the chat saying his is the So Bell is the 20th. So we'll see. It's still, man, like these guys FaceTime, dude. They love to chit chat with each other, man. They get together. They can do it. They can do it virtually now. It's not like going into Texas Beef Traders where you go in and you just get to hang out, have an old fashioned meat shop experience. These guys do it over FaceTime now. I'll bet you could FaceTime Aaron if you wanted to. He would love to talk to you. Call him up, let him show you the steaks on FaceTime. He would do it. He'd tell you, look, what do you want to order? I'll give you 10% off. If you live in the Austin area, I'll bring it right to your house, or you can schedule a time to come in and get it. Whatever it is that you want, whether it's, the Angus beef from MTX. Cody just brought home a whole grip of stuff from the combine that I brought to him. Have you tried out any of that Piedmontese ground beef yet, Cody?
I don't have the Piedmontese thawing, but I do have the regular beef thawing out right now. My wife, I can hear her rumbling around the kitchen, hopefully cooking it up so we can have some rice and hamburger after the show. And I'm excited to bring my wife to Texas Beef Traders because I know she loves beef jerky. And I'm going to take her to where the sausage is made. We're going to get some beef jerky. We're going to get some meat. I'm going to introduce her to Darren because I know he's got some wine there and I know she likes wine. So I'm going to go hang out at Texas Beef Traders next weekend.
It's right there in the heart of Lakeway, man. Cody and I will be up there. I guess Cody's wife too. We're going to be up there hanging out with Darren, doing a little bit of business stuff, talking about a new product that we're bringing up, and definitely just eating a bunch of meat and drinking a bunch of wine and beers and sangria. Or if you don't like that stuff, they have all kinds of cool colas. And so come up there, man. As soon as we know more about the exact time that we'll be up there, around the time we'll be up there, we'll let you guys know. But it's always so cool to run into people up there at Texas Beef Traders. It happens almost every time that I'm up there hanging out. So thank you guys for patronizing them. It means a lot to us. They're a great partner, and it's the best, most clean, awesome protein that there is. It's been a huge part of just developing much more healthy eating habits. Is just eating good, clean protein, man. And that's what you get at Texas Beef Traders. So make sure and check them out. I'm going to put up a link here to the beef jerky that you can order. We have 4 different flavors. So scan that QR code or look at the description below. And I think Tyler still puts the link in the description below. I'm not sure. I hope he does. That's where you can get the beef jerky. 4 great flavors. All right. Aaron Gregory, anything else, man? I got a grip of topics here that we can get into today.
That's it. That's all I got on Aaron Gregory. I do got one topic to start us off though, because it's coming from Twitter and it's a comment from somebody. Generally, we don't get questions outside of the chat, the Specs chat line, but we do have one from Twitter. Johnny over on Twitter, who jumped in early. I saw the comment. He said, "Is this it? I'm in the market for a sauna. Is this your sauna by chance?"
I have a it looks a little bit like that, but mine's a clear light sauna by Jacuzzi.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Johnny from Twitter, we appreciate it.
That's the same one that you have at your club.
There you go.
Because I've seen the photos, and the reason I went with the clear light sauna from Jacuzzi was because it had it doesn't have any what is it? No, it's like none of the electromagnetic. It's got the lowest. You have to look into the frequencies and stuff that they have in there.
No toxins.
And my wife, looked into it, and everybody says that was the best. I love it because it has the I don't even know what it's called, like the UV light
On the
therapy.
multicolor on top.
Yeah, you can do well. You could do it any color, but I just do it where it cycles through all the colors. It's like, well, this helps with your skin. This helps with your mood. It's like, it's just give them all to me. So,
and breaking news: Alex is a little colorblind, so he don't even see all the colors.
that's very very true. Even though I feel like I can see colors just fine.
I always forget. Until we do something, and you're like, dude, I don't know what that is.
So it can be hard. So it's only hard when you're colorblind to like tell colors when they're next to each other. I can see some. You say, "Oh, what colors?" I'll say, "That's red." It's like, well, all right, we'll find the red dot inside the green dots. That's the part where it's like I'm just donezo. I'm just like, there's like what letter do you see here? It's like a letter. I don't see a letter. I see a bunch of dots. All right. But yeah, shout out to Clear Light Saunas, and shout out to like it's so funny. We have like 600 people watching on X right now, and like what 50 something on Twitter. So shout out to everybody on X watching, man. If you guys could come over to YouTube though and like the show, subscribe to the channel, we would certainly appreciate that. For people watching on YouTube now, please like the show and subscribe. All right, this one might take a minute, and we might not even get to any other topics, but maybe we'll blast through it and get to all of them. But
oh boy,
now that we're home, but it doesn't have to be like your whole rundown of it. But we're home.
Yeah, no, but it's 14 dudes.
Yeah, but just one takeaway. And let me just say, like, Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton is probably hard for takeaways because they didn't do anything. I guess AC did the on-field work.
We'll start with Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins, I talked to somebody yesterday, and they said they were very impressed with his on-field stuff. We didn't watch the on-field stuff particularly for defensive line, but we watched it on TV because we had to come back and do the show. But I heard that they were very impressed with Alfred Collins. We heard some stuff about him skyrocketing at boards over the course of the last 3-4 months from his play at the back end of the season. One of the big notes we had in the war room, I think last week, was just that there's kind of been obviously a ships passing in the night between Cam and Alfred Collins in general stock of the NFL draft. And there would be no shock if Alfred would be a top 50 pick, top 45 pick, which to me, I think that's a massive takeaway. Cause think about where we were 365 days ago. I know all the conversations around Matthew Golden right now, but 365 days ago with Alfred Collins, people were worried.
Well, wouldn't you be worried?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
we were worried. Like,
I think it's a big takeaway. It's impressive that like 365 days, how vast your output and the view of you can be. And I wonder at the same time, had he had a similar season this year that he did last year, and we saw more Bill, we saw more Lole, we saw more Alex January, maybe a couple more snaps from Tia Savea, had that went that direction and we had less Alfred Collins output and no impressive games, what would the conversation be? Because as far as his measurements and stuff, they're good. Like, the NFL loves them. And the big conversation right now is around Shamar Stewart, who's done diddly squat at Texas A&M, but he's an otherworldly athlete. That's not Alfred Collins anyways, but I just wonder where the conversation would be if Alfred had like a 0 of a season.
It wouldn't be where it is now. It's like the conversation is where the conversation was always going to be if Alfred Collins did what he needed to do this season, and what he did this season is what he needed to do, and it was that's what it always was, right?
I think he just went on the clock twice.
I just kind of word saladed a whole nothing burger. No, but
whatever he was going to do was always going to be what he was going to be, and if he wasn't going to be what he was going to be, he's always going to do what he's going to be.
Yeah, well, but no, it's like with Alfred Collins, what do we always say? Develop a little bit of consistency, make those flashes show up more often, and you're going to get drafted super high. They're in love with your length. They're in love with the way that you move. And you held up better against the run this year. You took on double teams. It's like the tape is impressive on a whole lot of plays. It came together this year for him, and that was the concern. Is like, will it come together? Because the fact of the matter was, he was not good for Texas until this season. He flashed good, he flashed awesome, but he just wasn't good. Like, you have him on the football field. He generated production once every like 12 snaps or something, 13 snaps. It just wasn't good enough. And so he was, it's good to see from him because he's got the body that just these guys, their mouths water over it. Vernon Broughton, it's hard to say anything. He didn't do anything. I'll bet you he didn't even do anything at the pro day.
Wouldn't shock me. Vernon Broughton, mine would be his length. I mean, he had longer 35-inch arms, 34 5/8 for Alfred Collins. Wingspan for Alfred's 85, Vernon Broughton 83 7/8. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal or anything, but he was measured in at 6'5". Same with Alfred, 311 for Vernon, 332 for Alfred. I guess my brain just doesn't allow me to realize that Vernon was ever going to be close to the same height, the same length of Alfred Collins. I just never my brain was like, this dude's going to be maybe 6'3", 305 pounds, and like.
Yeah, no, I know. And even me, seeing them these two guys on the field together with each other for like 5 years.
They don't look the same.
Yeah, it's wild. It's one of those measurements like we talked on our roster watch show today about Ted McMillan, about how he measured in with little bit shorter wingspan. You're just like, what? Yeah. It's like every time you see him on tape, he looks like he's like a pterodactyl, It's like, how can he have, how does he not have the biggest wingspan in the whole class? There's like 13 of these guys at the combine with bigger wingspans, and some of them were like 6'2", when Ted McMillan's like 6'4". So yeah, that's interesting. And it's the whole thing about wingspan. And so like, how about for Kelvin Banks? Maybe this is a good deal for him. It's like my takeaway from Kelvin Banks at this deal is only 6 of 19 teams talked to him about being a guard that he met with formally. 19 formals. Whew. That guy's the formal king. He's tired after this week. 6 of 19, they talked with him about playing guard. And you heard about the 33.5-inch arms?
Mm-hmm.
And generally, in a perfect world, and it's not always perfect. You get like last year, like Talisi Fuaga. I forget what his arms were. But I think there was a big arm discussion about him. That was like 32 5/8 or something. I'd have to look it back up. But it was definite. Fuaga has short arms. First round tackle.
33 1/8.
Okay, all right. So a little bit bigger than I remembered.
Point still given.
33.5 for Kelvin Banks. What you generally say is like, once you get up to 34, you're good. Anything on top of that's just, if you get a guy with 35.5, 35 7/8, 36-inch arms, all of a sudden you're like, this guy's got Python arms, right? 26th percentile is where offensive tackles could come through the combine over the course of history, right? 26th percentile is 33.5. That in itself is not insurmountable. Just that you're basically in the bottom quartile of arms. That in itself is not insurmountable. What I found interesting is his wingspan was 84 and
the third longest in the class.
84 and something.
84 and 3/8.
So what that goes to show is, all right, just picture it like this, right? I'm holding out so this isn't even on a podcast. So if you're watching this, I was about to say for the podcast audience, I'm holding my arms out, but there's not a podcast of this. So I'm holding my arms out, right? And so if you just measure my arm, you're measuring it from here and the length of my arm to my middle finger here, right? And I'm holding it out like this. Okay. And I think they actually do it from the back right here, kind of where this muscle. Cody, what is this little bone here called? This little
deltoid?
Thing? Maybe. And they take it from there all the way down to your middle finger, right? And they do it for both arms, right? Because sometimes one arm will be longer than the other in weird circumstances. But what the wingspan is, it's like they take it from that middle finger to the other middle finger. So if you're somebody with real broad shoulders and you have a broad kind of base, it takes the actual body into consideration too, right? So so it's like that's the actual the actual distance from one of your arms to the other arm is like the more important measurement is wingspan as far as an offensive tackle, because that's the amount of space that somebody's gonna have to get around to get by your big butt to get to the quarterback. It's like if your arm could be that long, but if you're kind of small little shoulder guy, and like and there's not much distance here, you got a lot more distance than when you're a big shoulder guy with the wingspan. And Kelvin Banks is big shoulder guy, and so it's just short arms, but big shoulders, V-shaped trunk, and it makes it to where his arms go out longer, even though they're technically shorter when you look at him. Whenever you're just looking at him, is kind of how far down on his body they go. Whenever he's just standing there holding his arms down at his sides, so that was my biggest takeaway from him. Is just like so much for the length stuff. He's playing tackle.
I mean, yeah. And here's the thing, man. I'm like going through, and I did a little show this morning on one of my other shows, and it was like I ran through the top 10 picks in the draft, and I was like, well, this is easy. I think it's, I think Membu's going to come off, and Membu even came in with not the longest measurements. Armin Membu, the offensive tackle from Missouri, who's people have talked about him as a guard as well. And I heard a little bit of guard talk today, not too much. Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU, who is extremely short, 32 and 5/8 arms, 77 and 3/8 wingspan, which is the fourth shortest in the class, and the arm length same to boot. It's extremely shallow or short, or however you want to talk about it. I thought that was very interesting because there's still people saying, well, Campbell's going to go off before Banks. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me the only worry you had with Banks is because you thought he was too short his length was too short to play tackle? So you're going to put him at guard and then tell me that this other guy was going to go over him because he's more athletic? Okay, I can buy that. But now you're going to tell me that the length is 7 inches on the wingspan different? 7-inch wingspan difference?
Is it a 7-inch?
77 to 84 is 7 inches on the wingspan.
I mean, it should be no question. I mean, Will Campbell's tape is not that much better than Kelvin's. I think he's a little bit better.
7 inches, like Banks is 6'5". Cam Williams had the second largest. So the only guy that outmeasured Cam and Kelvin for arm length and wingspan combination, like wingspan, I should just say, was Holland Pierce. Holland Pierce is from Rutgers. He had an 88-inch wingspan. The reason it's 88 is because this guy literally is 6'8" and 3/8. He's extremely tall. He's the one that I told you, look over there, that guy weighs 340, and he doesn't look 340.
Because he's so big.
He's so big. He looks like he's like a basket. He looks lean, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, he's got the 88-inch wingspan. It makes sense. You can tell yourself as the tallest guy, it makes sense, whatever. Then you got Cam Williams with the second longest wingspan, 84 and a half, 84, 4/8. Kelvin, 84 and 3/8. Kelvin's only an 1/8 inch shorter than Cam Williams. I didn't expect that.
No, of course not.
An 1/8 below that is Carson Vincent, who's 2 inches taller than Banks and Cam.
Carson Vincent, I didn't look at his wing. What is his wing?
His wings, so 84 and 3/8, same as Banks.
Gosh.
And he's taller, right? He's a bigger player, bigger frame. Like, there's no question marks there. And like, to me, it's like, okay, I get it. Like, the arm length, you want somebody to be 34 inches, but historically 33 has worked. If you're below 33, you're borderline dead in the water at tackle. Right. And
I think there wasn't there one recently that had 32 something.
I think the mock draftable. I think mock draftable. I saw the post of offensive tackle arm length, the shortest arm length in the database.
I feel like there was one that was in the 32s recently that might have gone first round, and it was just a big deal.
How do I get to the end of this thing?
I could be off about that.
30. Okay, so here you go. I guess I read somebody posted this. That's wrong. There are guys with 32 in here. Cody Mock was 32 and 3/8. He's playing guard though right now.
Well, yeah.
Liam Eichenberg didn't pan out. Skoronski is playing guard.
Yep.
Justin Pugh didn't. I mean, he lasted a couple years.
No, I
Didn't
mean,
pan out.
guard though. Tackle is
Alaric
first and
Jackson,
guard. Alaric Jackson's playing tackle.
Alex Kappa just got cut yesterday.
Yeah, center guard.
Will
So
Fries, Caleb McGarry, 32 and 7/8.
okay, well, so right there at 33, you have McGarry, and that's a pure run blocker for the Falcons.
And Jordan Morgan got drafted by the Packers last year from Arizona, 32 7/8.
That's the one I was thinking of. Jordan Morgan last year. There was all that 32-inch talk, but it was 32 and 7/8.
But it's 32 and 7/8. It's not, Will Campbell's 32 and 5/8. Like, you're just getting more. I mean, I'm not saying he's terrible, but it's like you're bottom 10 all time at the position in arm length.
Yeah, no, I get it. Kelvin should go ahead of Will Campbell. Now the question is, should he go ahead of Mimbu? It's like
Wingspan, shortest wingspan of all time at tackle. Alex Kappa, 77 3/4. Second shortest, Connor Williams, 77 7/8.
And Connor plays center, or I guess he's retired now, but I mean, by the end of his career, he was playing center.
Yeah.
So
he does have the shortest wingspan at the position ever.
Who does? Will?
Yeah, Will does 77. What did I say was 77 and 3/8. Kappa was 77 6/8.
I mean, what's more to really say? I didn't realize that. So I'm glad we did the show. I didn't realize that there was that huge a discrepancy as far as the wingspan.
I don't get it. I'm like
you guys talk about it for a year, and now that it's here, we have the actual notes. You just don't. It's like, oh, well, forget about that thing we talked about. Just watch the tape of Will Campbell.
And here's the thing, and then they do like
what?
And I'm not like, so you're trying to be like bash anybody, because I respect a lot of these guys, but then like I see the stuff about like, oh well, Armin Membu doesn't have 34-inch arms either. He's 33 and a half. Same as Banks. He's got a shorter wingspan than Banks. He's also shorter than Banks. He's also not as athletic as Banks, not as well put together as Banks. Membu had a good 40, but I didn't realize that 40 was like the end all be all for offensive linemen.
Banks had a horrible broad jump, right?
Membu had a 1.74 10-yard split. Banks had a 1.79. Banks had an 8.8 jump. Membu had a 9.7.
I mean,
Banks had a 32-inch vert. Membu had a 34. Banks didn't bench.
What did Membu do? None of those guys really benched too much.
No, dude, bench was a down year. But point is, like, there's people in the streets that are like, I still think Membu's a tackle. Okay, well, if you're going to talk out of this side of the mouth and say, I still think Membu's a tackle, and then on this side of your mouth and still say, I still think Will Campbell's athletic enough to play tackle. But Banks has
to play guard.
Wait, you're telling me the guy that for 3 years has been looked at as the top tackle in the class now is not?
Yeah. It's just bad. It's bad.
And this is like no Texas attachment to this. This is just me being pissed off at the process. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe Alex, and we talked about the flat circle of the draft, which is you get to a point in like January where everything is like, okay, this all makes sense. And then as soon as the process begins, you get to the combine, you're at 6:00. You're in,
the twilight zone
of just everybody on Twitter is
People get bored of the guys. They're like, I don't want to put that guy at the top. Let's put this guy at the top. Or let's get because the guys at the top get nitpicked, right? They've heard so much about him. You're like, well, what? Gosh, go watch the UNC game. And, it's just like, oh, what about the UNC game? And, we'll look at the missed tackles. And then by the time you get back around, it's like you're just back to you're back to saying Andrew Thomas is the best tackle in the draft, and it's just like that's what it is, and that's what it was before, and that's, do you know what I'm saying? Like it's just it happens every single year. It happens every single year.
And the only guys that it doesn't happen with are guys that are like anomalies, like a Trayvon Walker that pops out. It's like, well, this guy's an athletic freak and Adonis. Okay, one guy can make it through, but the overall class, all the adjustment that's driven and fed into you by these fake Twitter, insiders that talk to this guy and talk to that guy and my source and this and all this BS. It all ends up being BS.
Do you think
Calvin Banks ends up going top 10?
Do you think Shamar Stewart could be a Trayvon Walker?
I think that someone's going to overdraft Shamar Stewart.
I think so too. What about Bond and Golden?
Do
Do you want to talk about your experience with watching Isaiah Bond and all the QR codes up across the whole stadium about, is he going to beat Xavier Worthy's 40 time? Is he going to, they were playing it up, dude. They're trying to create storylines for that combine. They're trying to create intrigue and buzz. And those people that go to that combine, Cody, as well as I do, those are maniacal people. I wrote in my column today, they're people that are very much like me in a lot of ways and very much not like me in a lot of ways, right? They're maniacal about football. They're there for the big action. Largely, they can be idiots, though, and I generally think that as crazy as college sports fans are, they are much more rational, reasonable, and high IQ than a lot of these fans you'll see at the live professional sporting events, right? That's just kind of the way that I feel a lot more comfortable taking my kids, let's say, to a rivalry game for college football teams than I would to a rivalry game for NFL football teams.
1,000%.
And so very much like me in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like they're not much like me. Right. Xavier Worthy it was pushed so much about his quote about breaking the record that they were pushing it, man. Xavier Worthy gets up to the line. They're like, dude, we're crazy about this. We've been here every single year since they opened this thing up. Well, last 4 years, 5 years? We've been here every single year. That thing that we saw with Xavier Worthy last year was the biggest sports moment that we've seen at the combine.
Yep.
It was one of the biggest sports moments of my life being there, honestly.
I got goosebumps when that one happened.
Yeah.
The first one.
And so they were hoping they were going to see something like that. And so Bond gets up to the line and they're just like, people get up and cheer. They're ready to see the show. They're like, you said you're going to run 4.1. This dude goes up there, runs a 4.40 unofficial. It got moved down to a 4.39. And he legit got booed, and it was just so weird, like this is basically what I said in my column today, like just, distilling it all down. It's like, if you would have told me back in October that at the 2020 combine that one player was going to get like booed for his 40 time and one dude was going to run a 4.30, say peace out, not do a single other drill, where the other guy stays and runs every single drill for scouts, just trying to prove everything he can for his route running, stuff like that. One's Matthew Golden, one's Isaiah Bond. Which one's which? I said, well, Bond runs the 4.30, he pieces out of the combine. Matthew Golden's the one who's going to need to show out for scouts, shows his route running ability. No, it was the other way around. I think that Matthew Golden, it's funny, on our show today, Cody, I think that as far as offensive skill players, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, we said on our show today, it's like the guy that helped himself the most, probably Golden. The guy that hurt himself the most, arguably Isaiah Bond, just because of the overpromises that he made. Now, I do think like Will Howard hurt himself real bad too with just his terrible throwing day.
Will Howard didn't have a chance to get in around one, though.
Yeah. It's true. Maybe just, yeah, I guess that's true.
Let me ask you this question, because you brought up Bond. This is one of my Monday topics. If I told you last week that a week from now, Isaiah Bond, 24.17 miles per hour, and Xavier Worthy, 24.41 miles per hour, were the only two receivers to run 24 miles an hour over the last 2 years, you'd have predicted what for his 40?
I mean, 24.41. I'd say like,
that's Worthy.
He's going to run a 4. He's going to probably run like a 4.28
for Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? But nobody's talking about the mile per hour part of this thing.
Well, no, but that's the question, dude. I wanted to talk about it. Look at one of the things that I wrote. Look at this, and maybe you can help me figure this out. It's the same thing. What do you make of the fact that Isaiah Bond hit a higher miles per hour running his 40 than Matthew Golden? People on the board keep asking me this. They're like, I think he's going to run better at Texas Pro Day because he had the higher miles per hour at some point. As far as their 10-yard, they said he got off to a bad start, but I think their 10-yard splits were close to one another.
That's not the point of the run. Like the reason. What was the tweet that we made the night before from the Roster Watch account? What was the tweet?
I forgot. Man,
about
those are some late night hazy tweets sometimes, Cody.
it was on so it would have been Friday night, which Friday night would have been the 28th. And let me think back here.
We would have been at Yard House or Harry and Izzy. No.
Here it is. Jaden Blue and Isaiah Bond. Remember that I did the Kanye gif, and Kanye takes the microphone away from Taylor Swift. Jaden Blue and Isaiah Bond are going to run fast on Saturday night, but they don't have that track guy magic like Xavier Worthy. That's the take the mic away from Taylor Swift and say, you don't deserve to be here. This award belongs to blank, aka Bond and Blue. You don't deserve to be here. This award belongs to Xavier Worthy, and then give it back. And that's what that was. Like, he doesn't have the track guy magic. He doesn't have that thing. He doesn't have that length. He doesn't have that start. He doesn't have that finish.
He doesn't have that.
He's so good is the start and the finish. You either have such a good start out of those blocks that you get up on guys, or you have such a strong finish that and Worthy just happens to have both, and his finish is phenomenal. I specifically remember he wasn't one that out of the gates, Worthy wasn't, but he's one that when he got done, there's a reason he ran to the tunnel last year on that second run.
Yeah, right.
He was at peak output at the end.
That flying, the flying 20.
And Bond and Blue are much more burst players. And you hit that burst is going to hit at the 10-yard mark, whereas Worthy with that flying speed is going to hit at the 35.
What about Gunnar Helm? I just, to me, do you have the numbers pulled up? Because I remember thinking before we even got into the 40s, I'm like, man, is he about to run slow? Because those jumps sound bad. We were watching the jumps and we couldn't see them, but they were coming up on Combine IQ. Shout out Mike Band, Roster Watch OG, for putting that thing together, man. Just what an incredible tool.
He jumped 30 inches on the vert.
Was that, did he do the broad?
No, just 30 inches on the vert.
So people saying that he's going to be fine coming back to the pro day and proving himself with the 40. He needs to prove himself with those jumps too. I think, if people are going to be thinking about him as sort of an explosive, sort of twitchy kind of guy, like he was showing signs of being this year just on film, I think he's going to need to show it a little bit in his jumps for sure. With that said, I do say it's whatever happened with it. When did he? So here's the thing for people who might have missed it. There's a gnarly photo going around that his agent sent out. His agent's Jack Becta, and I think it's Jack Becta. I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure. And clearly he wanted to get it out there that it wasn't any kind of agent malpractice about having him run or whatever. And so what he said was that he twisted his ankle and sprained his ankle and showed video proof of it. Picture proof of it. It was a gnarly looking ankle, right? All bruised up, balloon ankle. And right at during his start. And my question is, was that during the start of the time when he ran his first one, or during the time that he improved during the second one? We can't show that.
Hey, it's a slow motion tweet.
I'm not sure we can show that, man. Let's just make sure not to show that, because that's NFL Network. If we get demonetized,
I'm not going to play a video. Watch right here.
All right, so a little something happened.
Look at that ankle.
Yeah, man. Let's definitely take that off the screen, though, please.
Alex, it's not a NFL Network. Just look at his ankle. That's where he did it.
Yeah. All right, so we can take it off the screen, though.
Relax, man. It's fine.
It's
not a video. It's fine. If you show it in sectors like that, it's still images, it's fine.
All right. He's got to be careful about it.
Point is, he's going to be fine. He's going to hopefully in 3 weeks be ready to run again.
Was that the second run or the first run, though?
That was his first one.
And so it's wild to me that he improved on the second one.
I would think the adrenaline would sit in even more at that point, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It was just weird to me. But the guy's gritty, man. He was able to get through it. He should be good to go. They say it's just a sprain. Pro Day's the 25th. He's got 3 weeks. these guys, man, these 21, 22-year-olds, dude, they're like Wolverine with their healing capabilities, man. He'll be back at it. So that's my thoughts on him. Anything else? Like, what about Makuba? Blasts a 4.46 or something like this?
Makuba's one that hasn't been talked about at all. It feels, I mean, there's so many guys that
Aaron had an awesome day.
there's so many players that participated that it's tough to even recall what they all did. But yeah, I mean, Makuba participated on the same day that Jade ran the 4.39, so he got a little overshadowed by that. Makuba runs the 4.45, which I think is a great speed for him. In his testing, he weighed 186 pounds, which feels a little bit light for Makuba. But kind of what was expected. I think Makuba's just fine, ran fast. Baron Sorrell, I think that was the big one. Like, he'll forever feel like an underrated player to me. 4.68, 34-inch vertical, 10-foot broad, 28 on the bench, which is up there like top 10 in probably the whole event. I don't think many of the D tackles or offensive linemen did many more than 30. So he's going to end up high on the output for bench this year. I think Barron probably picked up a lot of ground.
Do you think he's going to go in the second round?
From the Senior Bowl through the Combine, those two events I think did a lot for Baron Sorrell in getting his face in front of teams, getting his character in front of teams, showing his play at the Senior Bowl, showing his athleticism at the Combine. I think you could make a case that as far as pure selections gained, if this makes sense, draft pick selections gained, I could argue that Baron Sorrell maybe picked up the most ground out of any Longhorn over the course of the last two events. Because Golden was kind of already up here, and now he's just kind of like solidified it.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up maybe 10 spots, you could say.
Aaron Sorrell could have been thought of as a fifth rounder.
And now he's a back end second.
Probably second.
Top third.
Like, you think – I think he's a top – is he top 75 or is he a top 100?
I think he's for sure top 100.
Top 75? If somebody said that, would you say maybe tap the brakes a little?
Yeah. I just don't think he's creative enough in the pass rush.
But not just slam on the brakes, but maybe tap him a tiny bit.
No, I'm thinking about it. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking about it. So it's like, if you gave me like an over-under of like 78 or something, I'm
probably taking the over. But it's
probably.
I think he's a top like 85 player.
Yeah.
I think that's probably about right.
What about Hayden Connor playing center?
Well, he's played a bunch of center, at least in practice. But he's played it. He's played every position at Texas except right tackle in games. But he's played a bunch of center in practice. But he's played it in games too.
Any recall on him playing center as far as grading?
No, I don't have it on me. I know that I've graded him I know that I've just talked about it before in columns. I've graded him at left guard. I've graded him at center. I've graded him at right guard. I've graded him at right guard, and I've graded him at left tackle, but never at right tackle. So I could go back and look. It'd be interesting to go look. If we did it right now, we would run out of time before the end of the show, and we didn't get to any of our other questions. But we need to talk about Quinn.
Who?
You already forget about this guy with Arch Manning in town?
Who's that? Is that a quarterback?
What'd you think, man? What is your internal narrative and sort of monologue on Quinn Ewers coming out of the combine?
He is what we thought he was. Like, I think he's fine. I thought it was interesting that there was a rumor that came out, or a report that came out, that two teams did not even have like whiteboard work with him. They just talked to him as a human. Like the Raiders and somebody else, Raiders and Saints maybe. And it came out that they didn't even like have him go on the whiteboard, do any plays, anything. Like, it was just like human conversation, human element. I thought that was interesting because I think the knowledge base that Quinn has is probably pretty evident, being that he was in the Sarkisian offense for 3 years. And I think one of the question marks with Quinn, outside of like the injury history and the arm strength, might be like the leadership quality, like a guy coming into your locker room. Like, can we believe that this guy is going to come in and demand like, is he going to pull energy out of other players and put it on the field? Like, is he going to not be a rah-rah guy, but is he going to be like a definitive leader of men? I think that's obviously part of what they're trying to figure out in Quinn.
My take on Quinn is just that I baked into his evaluation. He's going to go to the combine and look good. He went there, looked good to me. There were a couple of deep passes that I worried about, and I worry about his deep game anyway. Quinn looked like Quinn, and the fact that these other guys kind of stink, or they're too small, like Dylan Gabriel, or they're just. I don't even know. I don't know what Will Howard's out there doing. Milrow. It's like all these the guys kind of were who I thought they were. I guess it's kind of like Cody said, and to me, it just means that Quinn. He's right in the discussion to be quarterback 3 again. I don't think it's just some lock that it's Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck or something.
Yeah.
So Quinn's got really good arm talent. People like Quinn. I think that there's some people out there that think he's undervalued, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets back into that quarterback 3 conversation. I think that Quinn probably goes somewhere in the second round now.
Really?
Yeah, I think he'll go
Rams?
second. Gosh, just send him to the Rams, dude. He said his favorite quarterbacks are Stafford and Jared Goff to watch. Those are 2 Sean McVay. Are you kidding me? Just send him there, man. Stafford's going back now for another couple of years.
More white comps.
Well. All right. Now,
you can email us, dude. Come on.
FWF emails at gmail.com. You can find us on X at Alex Dunlap NFL, at Cody Carpentier as well. We're here every night, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. We're here every night. We're back home. We're back on schedule. We're here talking Texas football, Texas recruiting, SEC football, NFL draft, NFL, all things football, man. We're here to be here with our friends. So happy to have almost 1,000 of you guys watching between X and YouTube. Special shout out to everybody on X. Again, if you guys can please remember, we're on every night. If you're going to watch it on X, that's fine, but it would really help if you just come over to YouTube, click to like the show, subscribe to the channel, and if you could leave a comment below, that would be super helpful as well. Remember to make sure and go check out our sponsors, myperfectfranchise.net, Poncho Outdoors, Texas Beef Traders, and of course Specs, Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. We just love those guys. We could not do any of it without them. All we ask is that you tell your friends, you come back and watch the show, and we'll keep doing what we do, man. Get in, get out, talk football. We really respect your time, and we put a lot of time and effort into the show. So thank you guys so very much. Happy to be back home. Happy to be talking these Longhorns. All right. Love y'all, man. God bless you. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.